Hi, this is Janet Eifred. In this video we're going to look at ratios. We're going to use my ratio worksheets book. Okay, what I will show you in this book, in this video, is to do ratio word problems, to share ratios, to do more complex word problems, and to work with speed. Okay, and you can download the book by following the link below. So very simple ratios, we're going to move quite fast on this. What is the ratio of the shaded area to the non-shaded? This is how you start ratios, it is 1 to 1. Okay, how would you simplify a ratio? You would look and see these numbers, 24 and 18, they're both in my 6 times table. So I will go and divide here by 16, by 6. And I will divide here by 6. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. And how many 6's in 18 is 3. So my new ratio is 4 to 3. You could have also just halved it and think half of 24 is 12. And half of 18 is 9. And then you could have seen there in my 3 times table, I divide this by 3, I get 4. I divide that by 3 and I get 3. So it's just a bit longer, but you still get to your answer, which is fun. You can try those on your own. I'll just do a quick example here. If I say to you 6 kilogram to 2400 gram, that is not allowable to say 6 to 2400 because it's not the same units. You have to make the kilograms grams first. So you will say that is 6000 grams to 2400 grams. Now once it's both grams, you can throw away the unit and then you can just see it as 6000 to 2400. Now we can divide both sides by 100, so that zeros cancel, if you like, that cancel. So you've got 60 and 24. Now what we can do is, easiest to see is they're both in your 6 times table. So you divide by 6, you get a 10. And if you say 24 divided by 6, you get 4. And then you can half of 10 is 5, half of 4 is 2. So that 6 kilogram to 2400 gram will go to this ratio, 5 to 2. So that's the way to do it. Last question here. A maths class have 12 girls and 20 boys. What is the ratio girls to boys? So you would have the number of girls first, and there's 2 dots which we call 2 and then 20. And now you need to simplify that, which should give you, why don't you try, would you get 3 to 5? Okay, now stop the video, see if you can do the rest on your own, and I will give you the answers now. There you go, stop the video and mark your answers, make sure you can do this. We are going to move on now. If you want to stop now you can, else we move on. Again, very simple examples. 1 cup of coffee cost £1.50. How much would 5 cups cost? I know I've got a C there, which really means calculator. But I want to quickly show you how to times by £1.50. So hopefully, let's write it as a ratio. You would think 1 cup cost £1.50. In other words, 5 cups. So think about it. How do I get from 1 to 5? I times by 5. It's the short way of adding. And I times here by 5. Now what might be quick for you to do mentally is if I say 1.5 times 1.5. I see this as 5 times 1.5. So I can split it up as 5 times 1 and 5 times a half. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times a half is 2.5, isn't it? Together that makes 7.5. So your answer is £7.50. So that is a quick way to times with a 0.5 number by splitting it up, doing it mentally. In this case I say to you, you have a calculator, but it's always good to think, and could I do a sum without a calculator? Now in the next one I said to you 5 milkshakes cost so much. So you're going to think 5 cost 18.50. So maybe you want to do it in steps and you want to work out one first. So you would think from 5, how do I get from a 5 to a 1? I divide by 5. Remember, with ratios you can only times and divide. Don't say to me I plus something, because that it does not make any sense, does it? 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I divide here by 5. And let's do that on our calculator quickly. If you say 18.5 divided by 5, you get 370. This is a sum you could easily do without a calculator as well. You can go and look at my division worksheets if you don't know how to do that. I get £3.70 for one milkshake, and then that was the question. But what if I asked you how much would 7 milkshakes cost? I would times both sides by 7 then. Okay, so think about it. If I say to you 15 balls weigh so much, how much would 24 balls weigh? You can say 15 and go to 1 by dividing by 15, and then go to 24 by timesing by 24, and do the same on the other side. Okay, try the rest on your own. Pause the video. I'm moving to the answers now. There you go, there's the answers. Please check. Okay, I'm moving on to the next sheet. You can do that one on your own. I want to work with you on exchange rates. So if sometimes students get confused here, they don't know, should I divide? Okay, let's have a look. Pounds, euros. So what is the ratio? They say to you that 1 pound is 1.2 euros. Now if you use an equal sign or a 2 dots, it doesn't matter. You follow the same principle. Write your pounds, your 25 you write under your pounds, don't you? And here you can check. How do I get from 1 to 25? I times by 25. So I times here by 25. Now this is a sum you should be able to do without a calculator. 25 times 1.2. Many ways to do it. You can check my decimal worksheets, my times, multiplication worksheets. How to do them, watch the videos. To save time, I'm not going to do it here. 25 times 1.2 should give you an answer of 30. Another way to do it is just to think what's a quarter of 12 if your is free, so it's 30. That is just a quick method that would work, but quite complex to explain. Let's have a look at this one. You can try this one on your own. It is still quite simple. We've got dollars and pounds, so let's write down that ratio we have. This is a ratio that you will get when you go to the bank. They will say to you, how many dollars will you get for a pound? In this case, we have dollars and we want to change it back to pounds. So you write it like this. Now you are going to think, how do I get from 1.6 to 80? What do I times it with? To find out what do you times it with, you have to say 80 divided by 1.6. The answer you get to that is 50. What that means is 50 times 1.6 will give you 80. So you will times by 50. So let's think about the method. What would you do? You would say bottom divide by top gives me 50. In other words, I times both sides by 50. And 1 times 50 is 50. In other words, that answer is 50 pounds that you get for $80. Is it a sensible answer? Can you see the dollars is about 1.5 bigger? Is 80 a bit more than 1.5? 1.5 50 is a 50 under 25, which is 75. Yes, that is a little bit bigger than 75. It is a sensible answer, isn't it? There's some more for you to practice on the exchange rates. Let's do the 5 miles equal 8 kilometers. So we write our ratio down. We know that 5 miles equal 8 kilometers. You should know it or they will give it to you. How can you remember it? 5 miles, can you see there's 5 letters there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5 and the 5 go together. And the 8 is the other one. If you remember the 5 and the 8, you will know the 5 goes with the miles. Now I want to know what is 90 miles in kilometers, so I write the 90 under the 5, because that is the miles, isn't it? How do I get from 5 to 90? What do I times 5 with to get 90? What I showed you up there was bottom divide by top. So you're going to say 90 divide 5. Your first one always go under the bus stop. So 5 goes in 9, 1, remainder 4, 5 goes in 48. So in other words, I times by 18. In other words, I times here by 18. And 8 times 18, you can do 8 times 10 is 80. 8 times 8 is 64. And together that gives me 4 and 14. That gives me 144 kilometers. Okay, so method, bottom divide by top, get the number you times with, times the other side also by it, and get your kilometers this side. You try the rest, pause the video, try the rest. I'm moving to the answers. And there you go, there's the answers. Please check, pause the video to check. I am moving on to the next sheet. There we have a question. This is another exchange rate. This was when the South African rand was still good. Now it is on today it is more than 20 rand you get for a pound. So that is something that change all the time. Exchange rates always change. We are going to apply now our ratio method to some other questions that you might also find hard. Let's look together at number 3 here, and then we can see if you can try the rest on your own. You need to arrive at 18 hours. You travel 100 kilometers at an average speed of 50 miles per hour. Now that I see as a ratio. I'll do the sum down here. 50 miles equals 1 hour. Yeah, that is a ratio. Use the approximation of 5 miles equal 8 kilometers. That is a ratio, isn't it? 5 miles equal 8 kilometers. So we've got 2 ratios. And what is the latest time you should leave? We have a time which we can use later, and we've got 100 kilometers. Now let's look at our ratios and our 100 kilometers. So the 100 goes there. Let's use a calculator for this. We would say 100 divided by 8. 100 divided by 8. Remember, bottom divided by top. And that gives us 12.5. Which means 8 times 12.5 give you 100. In other words, you times by 12.5 this side as well. If you didn't have a calculator, you would say 5 times 12 is 60. Half of 5 is 2.5, isn't it? So it is 62.5 miles. This miles come out of this ratio. Can you see that we can put it here in this ratio? So it comes out of one ratio, goes in another. 62.5 miles. We want to know how many hours that will be. Can you remember the method bottom divide by top? So on your calculator go 62.5 divided by 50. If you want to know how to do that sum without a calculator, go to my division videos. I get an answer, bottom divided by top, I get an answer of 1.25. In other words, I times by 1.25 here, I times by 1.25 there, and the answer is 1.25 hours. Now, would you know how many hours and minutes that is? Don't say 1 hour 25 minutes, that's not right. That is 1.25 hours, isn't it? Because a quarter is 0.25. And you should know that a quarter hour is 15 minutes, so it's 1 hour 15 minutes. If you want to know how to work with time, you can go to my time workbook, but we can do this one quickly. You need to arrive at 18 hours. So we need to go back 1 hour 15 minutes. Let's go back 1 hour. 1 hour before is 17 hours. 15 minutes before is 16:45. Okay, so 16:45, that is the answer. Now it's your go. Try to do these others on your own. Okay, pause the video to do that. I am moving to the answers now. And there you go, there's the answers. Please pause the video and check. I am moving to the next worksheet. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to share ratios. Share 800 in the ratio 5:3. The way I like to set it out is very similar to the ratios I've done before. It's just a nice way of setting it out. 5:3. Let's think, what is the total? 5 plus 3 is 8. But my total is 800 pounds. Now at this stage, hopefully you will see that from 8 to 800 you just times by 100. If you didn't know that, if it was harder numbers, remember the method bottom divide by top. 800 divided by 8 is 100. So we times everything by 100. That is 300 and that is 500. Check it by adding these two up. 500 plus 300 do give me the 800, so it is correct. Okay, you try the next one, pause the video to try it. I just quickly want to help with setting it out the way I did before, because it is quite helpful to do that. 4 to 3 and the total is 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then this number goes there. Okay, you try. Pause the video to try that. I will quickly just help with this one in case. 7 to 3, and that is boys to girls. Now what I said here was the total boys plus girls, 10 children. But here they didn't give you the total children, they gave you 510 girls. So do remember that the girls goes here, so you have to write down the 510 there. Now you have to say 510 divided by 3. And your answer, then you times by, the answer is 17. And then you would go and times by 17, all of them. And that is 1700, isn't it? So that's the total answer. You can work out the boys, add it up to get that also. I do feel this is quite an important one, this number 6, which is why I've put it on the list. There's much more practice in the workbook. Please download it by clicking on the link below. A bag of apples contain green and red apples. Okay, let's look. Let's write it down. It is green and red. For every 3 green apples, so that's 3, there's 4 red apples. There are 5 more red than green. Okay, let's think about it. We usually said here work out a total 4 plus 3. That's not going to help us. What I want to know is more. How many more red do I have than green? 4 take away 3 is 1 more. But now I say to you there is 5 more, so that is 5. So how do I get from 1 to 5? I times 5. So I times here by 5 and I times here by 5. 3 times 5, 15. 4 times 5, 20. Now, how many more red than green? 20 take away 15 is the 5. This is correct. What did the question say? How many red apples? In other words, 20. Okay, if you haven't yet paused the video, try these on your own. I'm moving to the answers. There's the answers. Hopefully it makes sense the way I've set it out. Please pause the video and check. I'm moving to the next sheet. There's quite a few examples for you to check that you can do them. You might find it a little bit hard, some of them, if you don't follow the ratio method. So I would say pause the video, try it now, and then I will work through this with you. Okay, pause the video, work through. I'm moving to the answers, then I will help you to check them. There you go, there's the answers. So what you need in this question, you need to look for the numbers. There is a ratio, can you see? 32 miles per gallon. Remember, per means 1, that is 1 gallon. So I'm going to write down that ratio, 32 miles equal 1 gallon. Yeah, that is my first ratio, that one. The second ratio is 1 pound 22 per liter, which means 1 liter. So 1 pound 22 equals 1 liter, that is a ratio. And there's another ratio, 1 gallon equal 4.54 liters, and I write down that ratio there. What else do I have? I have the number 384, and that is miles, so I write it under my miles. This is the first one I use. And I say 384 divided by 32, and the answer is 12, and I times there with 12 to get 12 gallons. Now this is the second step, because this one is gallons and liters. So I write my 12 here. I can see to get from 1 to 12 I times by 12, so I times here by 12. And I get that liters as an answer. And in my third ratio I have liters, so I take this answer and go and put it in that ratio. And now I can see to get from 1 to this I times by 4.48. Do use a calculator, there is a calculator C. And I times here and I get 66.47 as an answer. Now the question said, give your answer to the nearest pound. It is simply because some people can make some rounding mistakes here. But it doesn't matter, however you round it, you should still get an answer of 66, even if you didn't get exactly the 47 pennies there. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I do think this next question is really important, quite hard. So let's do this one also together. If you could do it and you did get your answer of 5 and you think you did it in the right way, you didn't guess, then do fast forward to the next sheet. 5 times as many pupils obtained a level 6 in maths as obtained a level 7. So let's look, the ratio of level 6 to level 7 is 5 to 1, isn't it? 5 to 1. If a total of 35 pupils took a test, 5 obtained a level 5, how many obtained a level 7? So there's 35 in total, 5 got a level 5. So the level 6 and the level 7 would be 35, take away the 5 would be the 30. Okay, and now we can simply just look at this ratio. And we can think 5 plus 1 is 6, and the total is 30. To get from 6 to 30 you times by 5, so times here by 5 and times there by 5. You get 25 to 5. In other words, the question said level 7 is 5, level 6 is 25, isn't it? But the answer is then that 5. Okay, this is very similar to the previous question we did before. You should be able to do that on your own. Pause the video if you want to look further. I am moving to the next sheet. Yeah, we are going to look at speed. Now, a lot of students follow the triangle method, where they would say that speed is distance divided by time. Distance divided by time. They follow the triangle method. I'm just going to follow here a different method. For in case you forget that one, then you can also fall back on this, because here you don't have to remember anything. You just know your ratios. Franz cycles 25 miles to his friend at a constant speed of 10 miles per hour. So what does that mean? That is a ratio because he travels 10 miles in 1 hour. And now we say he travels 25 miles. Okay. So from 10 to 25 you times by 2.5. Remember, you can say 25 divided by 10, in other words, move the point back one space, 2.5. So that means times by 2.5 here, which gives you 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, what is that in hours and minutes? It is 2 hours and 0.5 is a half, isn't it? Half an hour is 30 minutes. So if Franz leaves at 2 p.m., at what time will he arrive at Dylan's house? 2 plus 2 is 4 p.m. and another 30 minutes, so he would arrive 4:30 p.m. So hopefully you can see how I follow the ratio 4 miles per hour. There the ratio will be 12 miles in 1 hour if you want to find out what time Kara will get to Becky's house. So please pause the video, do the rest. There's some interesting questions for you about Usain Bolt, who runs at a constant speed of 44 kilometers per hour. So please pause the video and do the rest. I'm moving to the answers. There you go, there's the answers. I wonder if you found this one hard, because you had to go from hours to seconds. I can just quickly go through this one with you. 44 kilometers per hour, so 44 kilometers in 1 hour, that is your ratio. We want it in meters. We want to work with meters. So first of all, we want to change kilometers to meters. And if you don't know how to do this, go to my measures videos. But you should hopefully know that you times by 1,000. So that is 44,000 meters. Now, how do you go from hours to seconds? This is in my time worksheet. But you should know that in 1 hour there is 60 seconds. In other words, from hours to seconds, you times by 60. If you worked backwards, you would divide by 60, wouldn't you? You should know that was minutes, wasn't it? In 1 hour there is 60 minutes, so you times by 60 to go to minutes. Now in 1 minute there's the 60 seconds, isn't there? So in other words, from minutes to seconds you times by 60 again. So to go from hours to minutes you times by 60, and from minutes to hours you times by 60. So you are going to times from hour to second by 60 and then by 60 again. And that is what gives you 6 times 6 is 36 with 2 zeros. Okay, so now we've got meters per second. We've got what is kilometers per hour in meters and seconds. And now to make it 1 second, to find out how many meters per second, we will go to 1 second and divide by 3,600 both sides to get meters in 1 second. And then we want to make it 100 meters. Yeah, so bottom divide by top to find out what your times were there, and then you get 8.2 seconds at the end. Okay, pause the video if you want to mark further. I'm moving on to the next. And we are finished with the ratio workbook, so please click on the link below to download that. And you can also go to my website if you want to find out more. Thank you for listening.